It's Jefferson, climbs the ladder. Oh my goodness! Come
What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Run Pure Sports Strokes Gain Show. I am Red Kachik, and I'm joined tonight by Snyder to talk a little bit about the BMW Championship, the second leg of the FedEx Cup playoffs. Next week is the Tour Championship, so we'll get a trimmed down field this week. And honestly, I was joking with Snyder before we got started. We had 70 guys last week, got 50 this week, so it makes these shows a little bit quicker and easier to go through. 50 guys, and they're the best 50 on tour to this point. So, these shows are actually a little bit easier as we finish up. But then the fall swing kicks up pretty quick here in September. So I'll bring in Snyder. How's everything going with you, man? You have any comments for last week with Lucas Glover going back-to-back? Pretty impressive.
Yeah, it was pretty wild. Interesting playoff there, too, with Cantley finding the water and then almost holding that putt to tie it there for par. It was a great event as a whole. I really like that golf course. Looking forward to this event, too. Last week was fine. I think I was pretty good on most of my stuff. I know John Rahm really held me back from really doing anything in tournaments, though, because I went Rahm up top. I was heavy on Cameron Davis, who had another top 10. I had some other guys up there. I was heavy on Max Homa, who was right there. He just had a couple doubles there down the stretch on the back nine, which was kind of hurtful to him as well. But, looking forward to this. Excited to dive into what I think is going to be a lot more of a test of golf here than we have seen pretty much the whole year, except for at Oak Hill there for the PGA Championship. I'm excited to see this course again, as what we've seen the last two times it was on tour. I'll kind of get into it a little bit, but it was good.
Yeah, this is one of the best courses that it's not even really in a rotation on any of the events. And to be honest, it's usually used for majors. The USGA holds it for the AMs, the Opens occasionally, and I'm not sure if it's held a PGA Championship, but it's definitely held for the higher end events. It's Olympia Fields, the North Course this week, and Snyder will break it down here in a second. But yeah. Back in, 2020, John Rahm won at 4 under par. And I think we're going to see similar scores this week, man. I was looking through how the course was set up in 2020 and trying to compare it. Like, it was definitely a bomb and gouge type of week. They said that rough was at 5 inches in the luscious spots, which is definitely devastating if you hit it in some of the rough. And this week I already see it's just listed as 4+. So once you get over like 2, it's basically bad. So 4+ is pretty gnarly. So I expect these guys to struggle as much as they did in 2020, to be honest. I think I haven't checked the weather, but it looks like it's been pretty good up there for the most part. But yeah, if you want to go ahead and break down the golf course a little bit, to put it in perspective, I mean, this tournament in particular rotates to a bunch. Like last year was Wilmington Country Club up in Delaware. Caves Valley 2 years ago. Patrick Cantley's won the last two. Olympia Fields finished at 4 under as the winning score. All the rest have been like 20 under par as the course rotations for this event in particular. So big difference in what we've seen of late. Again, it's a par 70. I think we've had par 70s for like the last month. But this is a little bit longer of a par 70 and definitely more of a beast. So I'll let you break it down and let us know what to look at for this golf course.
Yeah, we're ready for the second leg of the playoffs here. Like we mentioned, Olympia Fields Country Club here. It's a par 70 measuring 7,366 yards. Classical tree line course here. Played very tough the last 2 times it was hosted an event here. The U.S. Open, it was held here quite a ways away. 4 golfers broke par that time. And then the BMW was here in 2020, like we had mentioned where only 5 golfers broke par. I think golfers are going to see average size greens here. Right around 5,300 square feet on average. The bent grass greens here will be rolling at around 12 on the step meter. In 2020, we talked about the rough a little bit. It played very tough, very thick that time, and it looks like it's going to be right around that 4 to 5 inch tall this year as well. So I think Bomber should see a slight advantage here. There's narrow fairways here too, about 25 to 28 yards wide. It looks like multiple dog legs, which will have it playing even tighter. I think if it's going to be a tough test of golf, it's going to be tough to find fairways here. I'd rather have the guys hitting the ball the furthest, they're leaving less club into these greens.
Absolutely.
When it was played here in 2020, less than 50% of the people found the fairway off the tee here. So I expect a lot more of that here this week. The way this track is set up, you better make some birdies early as well, as it only gets tougher as you go. 8 holes are going to have water in play here. 91 bunkers are going to litter the property, so quite a bit of sand here. Both par 5s are going to play over 600 yards here, so basically 3-shot holes there. 7 of the par 4s are going to play over 450. And then looking at the par 3s here, I think 2 of them actually present some birdie chances here. They're going to play like right in that 160 to 180 range there, but they do have one par 3 that's set up here that could play anywhere from 250 up to 280. I've heard at times that they could set it up at 280 if they want at one time this week. I think par would be a great score there, obviously. I'll be looking at Oak Hill a little bit as a course comp here for this event. I think it'll play tough and kind of similar to how PGA Championship played. Some other key stats we'll be looking at: strokes gained off the tee, emphasis of distance, bogey avoidance, approach, proximity, 175 to 200, opportunities gained, and then putting as well.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head. So I wanted to kind of paint a picture about like what to expect of this golf course, because like shooting 4 under par to win a golf tournament can happen a lot of different ways. And if you talk about narrow fairways, you have to obviously put that into context. Like, is the priority hitting fairways like it is at Pebble Beach, or is it like Bryson a couple of years ago? You just bomb and gouge it, and you're just trying to get it down as far as you can. And you're exactly right. Like the field average under 50%, but even the top 10 finished under 50% driving accuracy. Everyone's just bombing it. I was looking through the scorecard. I mean, the first couple holes, they're averaging 320 off the tee. There's 2 like layup holes. So again, just trying to put this into perspective, like everybody's hitting driver, and they're hitting it like 315, 320. They don't care necessarily about missing fairways. Like they want to hit the fairway, but hitting it, 320 and slightly in the rough is worth the risk versus hitting it, 250 in the fairway and having these longer approaches into a 300 yard golf course, par 70. So, I look at hole 5 and hole 12 are basically less than driver. Everything else is grip it and rip it, besides the par 3s, obviously. So to your point, I mean, focus on off the tee. Look for guys that can actually get it out there. Weighing driving accuracy with the distance is obviously incorporated in strokes gained off the tee. But that's really the start on this golf course, in my opinion, is getting the driver out there. If you hit a few extra fairways, that's great. It looks like Rahm hit 54% of fairways, so he's slightly over the field. But that was enough to give him some opportunities with his iron. So, like I said, trying to paint a picture of how 4 under par occurs. Guys seem to just grip it and rip it here. They're hitting a lot of drivers. They don't necessarily care about missing it in the rough because they want to have wedges into these greens. So, look for the guys that are strongest off the tee. Obviously, the best players in the world are in that category. But that definitely helps me out when I try to look through my player pool of what kind of guys fit the mold. This doesn't seem like a short and narrow dink it in the fairway and then scramble your way home. Looking at the leaderboard from 2020 really quick, guys in the field: John Rahm finished first, obviously. Hideki finished 3rd. Tony Finau finished 5th. Fitzpatrick finished 6th. Brendan Todd finished 8th. So there's a short hitter for you. And then Rory, Cantley, Brian Harman, Benny On finished T12. So, definitely a plethora of longer hitters. A few mixed in there with Brendan Todd. I'm sure he had an elite putting week. And then Fitzpatrick's just sneaky on longer golf courses. But all in all, this was the best players of the world at the time, and mostly the longest players in the world at the time as well. So just wanted to paint a picture there. We have a little bit of time to kill with a smaller field. Am I missing anything, Snyder? Do you agree with that, with those general statements? With driving, I think really is probably the most important part of the golf course. I mean, it gets you off to a good start.
Yeah, I love it. I think you hit the nail on the head right there. I like everything that we have both kind of talked about there. I think we've got a pretty good setup there coming into this.
Obviously they need the whole package, but you can't be I don't think you can be Andrew Putnam and hit at 270 or 285 in the fairway. You're going to have to do a lot of other things miraculously. So we can go ahead and get started. Interesting pricing this week. Again, we got the 5K guys priced out just like at the the British Open, I think. A good number over 10K, but again, with the 5K guys and in a no-cut event, they're certainly playable. We have 7 guys over 10K. Then I'll just go ahead and kick it over to you, Steiner. So I got Rory here at 12-1. I think this is the first time Scotty has not been the most expensive player in like the last probably 18 months or something like that. We got Rory at 12-1, Scotty Scheffler at 11-6, John Rahm at 11-2. We have Cantley at 10-5, Victor Hovland 10-3, Xander 10-1, and Jordan Spieth at an even 10K. So we got 7 guys up here. Obviously looking at like the FedEx Cup playoffs, guys that get onto a run tend to do really well. Ironically, the Wyndham doesn't count for Lucas Glover's run, but you can see you can get onto a hot streak and really ride it out for 3 weeks straight. And that's how you kind of win the FedEx Cup. So looking at guys that played well last week, I think is definitely important. Like I said, off the tee is a big metric, and there's really two or three guys that stand out the most for me. Rory, obviously, Cantley surprisingly has been great and obviously finished second last week. And then Scheffler continues to do great things tee to green. And we even talked about it last week in a showdown show. You know, I think he gained a little bit of strokes on the back nine in round 1, but then he continued to putt terrible for the next 3 days. So Scheffler at a golf course where I don't think putting is maybe going to be as critical to shoot, 12 or 15 under par. He probably is going to be more in play for me this week, and hopefully people go to the Rory expensive or Cantley off of the second. But where are your thoughts here in the 10K range? And maybe give me your general thoughts on the lineup construction. I mean, the 5Ks aren't necessary, but it definitely opens up a little bit. Saves you $1,000 maybe off the mid 6K range.
Yeah, I think I'm going to be looking for one guy up here per lineup, I think. I don't think I can really get to 2 of these guys in one lineup because I really don't want to dip down into that 5K range. I think that's going to be what a lot of people do. I've heard like Patrick Rogers getting talked up quite a bit, like Nick Taylor's even. I've heard his name a few times. And if those guys want to play those guys, I think they're fighting an uphill battle there because I'm going to be looking for solely one guy per team. I think I want to set one of those rules for MME just because I want to try and find the winner, and then I want to try and find like as much top 10 equity as I can to kind of help build this out with being such a small field. I think placement points are going to be huge this week too with it playing so tough and not as many birdies out there to be made. So looking at the top of this range, this is the first time we've seen someone overtake Scotty Scheffler for strokes gained total. Last 36 rounds, Rory now has outdone him in the strokes gained total numbers there. I think he's fine. I don't know if I'll get there, though, because I'm going to be looking to save that $900, I think. I'm going to go right back to the guy, John Rahm there. He let me down last week. I'm going to go right back to him. I think there's a great course fit for him. Obviously, he's won here, so I'll be going right back to him. He had one of his worst off the tee rounds of his career last week. I think he lost 2 or 3, 4, something like that. He lost quite a few strokes off the tee. It was one of his worst, at least in the last quite a while. I think he'll find the fix for that. There's no water here, as much water off the tee as last week, where he found some troubles there. He did struggle here for his first round last year. I think he shot 75 and then rallied back over the weekend, shooting. I think he shot maybe like 6 under or something the last day or something to climb up the leaderboard and win this event. But I'm going to be going right back to Rahm, 11-2. I think that the price is fine. I think he's actually going to come in lower owned than Cantley, Scheffler, and Rory too. So I think I'm getting a pretty good ownership discount as well. So I really like Rahm to anchor my teams. I think he's a guy that has a lot of win equity here. And then I'm going to be going to a guy, Victor Hovland, who I've been playing a little bit as of lately. He's been really good in some of these big-time events as well. The short game's been much better for him. He's coming off of one that was the worst off-the-tee outing of his career. That was the worst numbers I could find looking through Hovland's database. 10-3. I like – he shot where did he finish? 13th last week. I think he lost 4 or 5 shots off the tee last week. So I like going right back to Hovland. He's been good tee to green, though. His iron play has just been elite over the last 2 events, gaining 6 strokes at the Open, then 4.5 strokes approach last week. He was right there in contention at the PGA Championship, too, at that tougher Oak Hill there. Ended up taking second place there. He's just been so elite tee to green this year. And I'm going to be banking off of Rahm and Hovland to anchor most of my teams up here. Xander's just not playing good enough right now. I can't spend that on him. And then I think there's too much trouble here for Spieth, so I'm going to be off of Spieth. I think Cantley's a guy that'll probably make my pool, and then probably one of Rory or Scotty if I can fit them in. I think I kind of want to try and get a little bit of Rory, Scotty, Rahm, and Cantley and Hovland. Try and get some of all those guys. I haven't built any teams yet, but for like 150 or something, I think getting some of those guys just to have that win equity. Because I think you're going to need the winner here, obviously, to have success in tournaments.
Especially if you're going to pay up. Yeah, you're definitely going to probably want the winner out of this group. Because if not, it's such a small field anyways. If the winner doesn't come from this group, the optimal lineup is going to come from sub 10K as a ceiling. So even if they finish second, I think you still get more upside from anybody cheaper that finishes inside the top 10. So yeah, you really just need a win out of this group. So just playing the guys that are playing hot, I think, is the right way to do it. Yeah, I mostly agree. The big difference for me, I think, is I'm a little bit lower on Rahm even after his win here. He does grade out the worst for me, and I've been kind of chasing him. And I did the same thing you did last week with him, thinking that might be an opportunity, and just didn't do it. I mean, he just hasn't looked the same, to be honest. Trying to give him the benefit of the doubt, he just hasn't been the same since even after the Masters win earlier in the summer. So for me, I really do want to go back to Cantley. He projects the best for me just from a strictly a DraftKings projection standpoint. And at 10.5, I think that's pretty reasonable. As far as like the spend up, yeah, I think you would want to make a stand between McIlroy and Scheffler if you want to include one of the expensive guys in your pool. Sprinkling the both of them, I think, is a little bit thin. And honestly, at this point in the year, I think Rory gets the bump for me, to be honest. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of different ways you can cut it, but I mean, Scheffler has been consistent all year, but I think Rory has still been just a slightly more consistent tee to hole, not even tee to green, just trying to get the golf ball in the hole and finish in the top
extra
5.
Distance too off the tee, doesn't he? About 10 yards averaging about off the tee more.
Yeah, I have him 12 yards over. Scheffler. Yeah. So, yep, you're right there. I have him as far as off the tee. It's in this range. You would think it'd be Hovland, but I think Hovland's driving accuracy has been struggling a bit the last month or so. But it would be Rory, Cantley, and then Scheffler as my top 3 off the tee guys. So, like I said, I think Cantley's the guy I'm gonna kind of, I guess, hitch my wagon to and ride him off of last week. I'm hoping the disappointment might be enough to fuel him. And like I said, he does project out well. He's just so boring as a golfer. And then Rory at 12-1. This is kind of his part of the year, man. He's got 3 FedEx Cups. He just somehow doesn't win a major, but he wins a FedEx Cup every 3 or 4 years. So
what do you think about how Rory's he's done this several times this year where he just comes out of the gates just blasting away there on the back 9 or on his last round there, round 4. He misses a short birdie put on 1, then goes birdie 2, 3, and 4, and then just completely loses everything. Just kind of
he's done that a few times. He's got off hot and then just gets lazy. He did that at the PGA Championship, I think. He got off to a good start and then he made a bogey on the par 5. And then he made a bogey or a par on like the next short par 4. With a wedge in his hand, like just sloppy. So I don't know. Like I said, hopefully this is just the time of the year. Maybe he knows the season's coming to an end and he wants to just finish well and move on to the next year. It's been a disappointing year. I probably would say he would agree with, but yeah, I do like Cantley. I'll keep riding Rory, and Spieth is just an anomaly every single week. I wouldn't hate you if you played Xander, but he has been quite a bit worse than the other guys in this range. So. And then you mentioned Victor Hovland, totally fine with that. But yeah, mine would be Cantley, McIlroy, Scheffler, and that would be, again, trying to trim the pool over the 10K guys, not to get too thin. So any thoughts there? You want to jump down to the 9K range?
No, I think we can dive into the 9K range there. I think a lot of people will. Don't you think? I think people are going to try and jam 2 of these guys. Just going through Discord and just listening to some other –
because you can, and I don't think it's right. Yeah.
I don't think it is either, yeah.
Yeah, I don't like the idea. Yeah, I mean, in a limited field, like you talk about top 10 equity, yes, I agree. I mean, I think you should be able to get like your first 2 or 3 guys in your lineup with actual win equity. And if you just jam in 2 guys at the top with win equity, your third guy is going to be quite a bit worse than if you just got 3, above average and then 1 elite guy. So yeah, that's the way I would approach it. I do think you need to have 3 guys with really good win equity. Just jamming in 2 guys at 12-1 and better is probably the wrong way to do it. You're just going to cut yourself short on the bottom range of your lineup. So I do agree. I don't want to attack 2 guys in one lineup up there.
Yeah, for sure. I like
because there's the 5Ks aren't as good as like from the British Open. There was also like 20 guys or 15 guys, whatever it was. And like there was 1 or 2 that actually stood out, like European Tour stats, whatever it was. They graded out to be in a 5K range and they were playable. I don't think these guys are really playable. They grade out so much worse for me. There's a couple guys like 6,100 like Hodges. Losing a bunch of strokes around the green, which we'll get to this range here shortly. But from a lineup construction standpoint, I don't think these guys are really puntable. I know Wiley likes Kurt Kitayama down here. I don't think the upside is there to play two studs and then camp out with Kitayama because, like you said, the placement points do matter. Like if Kitayama shoots 7 over, 6 over, 6 under, 7 over, I don't think that 7 under round is enough to carry him. I need the guys that's going to shoot 2 or 3 under every day and finish in the top 10.
Yeah, if you get a round like, what was it, Leishman last year or in 2020 where he shot like 20 over or something, if you get that, you're absolutely cooked.
He did, yeah. He shot 30 over. He shot 80, 78, 79, and then had to come back on Sunday to shoot 73. Yeah, pretty rough. But he got a nice contract to live. He's on live, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Probably got $20 million. Pretty good.
Oh, yeah.
All right, so we could talk about the 9K range. I think we got 8 guys here. Yep. Starting up at the top, Colin Morikawa, Tommy Fleetwood, Max Homa, Hideki Matsuyama, Sungjae Im, Ricky Fowler, Lucas Glover, and Tyrrell Hatton. And to be honest, like to Snyder's point, most of these guys have been playing some really good golf, and you obviously get a nice discount off of the 10 and 11K range. And playing 2 of these guys is much more feasible. The lower end of your lineups are definitely look better and have more top 10 equity. And like I said, these guys all, like I just said, you want the first 3 guys in your lineup to have pretty good win equity combined. I think this is a pretty good range to start with. It's just a matter of trimming out your player pool because they all look pretty good. So I'll let you take it from here, Snyder. Glover won on a golf course very similar to this when he won his U.S. Open. Going for a 3-peat, but he's only 9,100. Could the top 5? He's had like 4 or 5 top 6s in the last month and a half. So
quite the heater.
Yeah, so it's not even like the win equity, just finishing the top 6. I think he has 1 round over 70 or over 69 in his past like 16 rounds or 20 rounds. So pretty good. But yeah, what are your thoughts here? Like I said, most of these guys look really good. It's just a matter of like maybe picking out a specific stat or specific skill set that you think fits the golf course better and running with that, because most of these guys have some decent form leading into this event, more or less.
Yeah, I think looking at the top here, my guy Morikawa, it's been kind of hurtful there. He did finish inside the top 15 or 13th last week. He was right there. He's actually gained strokes putting in 5 to 6 events, which is kind of wild that he hasn't at least been in the contention to win one, aside from the Rocket Mortgage where he finished second a few weeks back. But I think he's interesting. I'm not sure how much I'm going to get to him. I'm going to have some for sure. I think he's going to be potentially the lowest owned. Him or Hideki, I think, could be one of the 2 lower owned guys in this range. I think he's definitely got some upside there. A little steep with the price, but I think that's going to keep his ownership down. So he's going to be in the pool, though. And then you got Tommy Fleetwood there. I think Tommy Fleetwood has some of the best top 10 equity in this entire field. He's just been right there. He's been so close many times, just hasn't broke through for that PGA Tour win. It could come here, probably not, but it could. I think he's fine, though. I'll have him in the pool for sure just because he's been so good. 3rd, 10th, 6th, 5th. He's been right there in some of the bigger events this year, too, so I'll be right back on Tommy Fleetwood there. He's been good off the tee, too. He's gained at least 1.5 strokes off the tee in 10 of his last 11 events, so that's something good. to look at for here. Looking at his distance, he's not bad off the tee. He can hit it about 300, which is fine there. Then Max Homa is a guy I've been kind of on and off of this whole year. Been back on him for about the past month or so. It's been good. He was very close last week. Just made a couple of terrible mistakes there on the back nine. Makes double bogey on 12 and then another double bogey on 14. Makes a late eagle to kind of get himself back up there. But he was right there. I think he's the guy that's got some pretty good win equity too, even in this range. Definitely top 10 equity. So I'll be having Homa on quite a few teams, I think, this week. And then kind of looking down, I'm not going to play Sung Jae. He's way too overpriced, I think. I think Hideki's got some merit to him. He played all right last week, and he's had some decent success here at this track. Not going to be on Fowler. He's kind of went the other direction since his win at the Rocket Mortgage. And then it comes down to Glover. Can Glover keep it rolling? I was playing him when he was in the 7Ks. I had a little bit of him last week thanks to Cam, and then I just don't know if I can go back to him for a third straight week at 9,100.
It's tough. He's been playing a lot of golf too. I just feel like you got to get burned out at some point, at least mentally. We saw him sweating through his pants anyways, but it's just got to be not even a wild ride. Just you win one and you're just kind of you're relieved, but like there's still a lot of stress and mental work that grinds through a final round or even like the last couple rounds while you're in contention. To do that the next week and then go to a playoff, like there's so much that goes into it.
Coming to like potentially the toughest course of the whole year to play. I think I'm.
The thing that helps him is he can't really pack it in. He's getting 4 rounds, so I could see. Like if I viewed it like he's coming to a major off his good week, there's like some added motivation. It doesn't matter what he won last week. It wasn't a major. He's going to a major. There's extra motivation. I kind of view it as like he could see this as he has to play 4 rounds. He can't just pack it in and go home and enjoy his back-to-back wins. So I would give him a bump for that reason that I know, not that he's getting 4 rounds, but that I know he knows that he can't just, shoot 75 on Thursday and maybe like, guys, it's time I shoot 75 again and I go home. So I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. And he doesn't want to go home because his wife's at home. So he doesn't want to go home. So I think Glover just raised up way higher actually in my ranking just from that statement alone. But the guy that I like a lot in this range, and he should, like you said, he should be lower owned, is Hideki at 9,400. And off the tee is okay. Approach has been unbelievable, but it's interesting. Hideki's had a weird year. He hasn't had a top 10 since March, and he has had 6 top 20s since then, but no top 10s. So I think Hideki's actually in really good form. Been playing quite a bit of him. He just has been doing nothing around the greens and or putting. But he is kind of the class of this field as far as like approach shots for me. He's got 10% more shots inside of 18 feet than the field, 8% more shots inside of 12 feet. Even in this 9K range, like he stands out quite a bit for me. So I like Hideki here. I'm kind of torn on Morikawa. I think he's a little bit expensive at the price. What did he finish back in 2020? He finished T20. So like at least he's got some experience here. He did finish 68 on the weekend, so that's pretty good. So I'm kind of torn on Morikawa just at the price. If I don't play anyone over 10K, I could certainly see myself playing some Morikawa. Hideki I'm fine with. I'm kind of leaning towards fading Homa. I'm hearing him get talked up quite a bit, and I think his irons have been a little bit too mediocre for me to get behind. Again, it's a wild golf course where a lot of these guys that just don't make a ton of birdies and just kind of dink it around, like bomb it, but like they don't need to make a ton of putts. Could do well. But yeah, for me, I think I'm going to start leaning for some of these guys that might just spike here at the end of the season. So Hideki, Morikawa at 9,800, I'm leaning into. And then Tyrrell Hatton still at 9K, I like a good bit. The guys that I'm going to fade is obviously Sung Jae, to your point, just doesn't add up for me. This is in 2021, Sung Jae. Ricky, I think he's had his run, so I'm going to fade Ricky this week. And then Glover, I just don't think I can quit Glover. Like I said, he's guaranteed 4 rounds. He knows that. Give me some $9,200 or $9,100 Lucas Glover and, show up for a top 10. I don't think he can win 3 in a row, especially with these fields being so strong. But I mean, he's going through some crazy run. Like I said, with 4 or 5 top 10s in his last 6 starts. So yeah, give me some Lucas Glover. But yeah, for me, I think Hideki is the guy I'm going to lean into at 9,400. He just seems like the right play for this type of golf course.
The odds on Glover, I'm just looking at his odds here. It's kind of wild. There's anywhere from a 28-1 to a 45-1 hanging on him. Caesars has him at 28-1, and then Bet365 has a 45 hung on him. So some of the books are wanting the action, and some of them doesn't.
That's crazy. Yeah, I mean, what's 25-1? That's in the
it's like
I guess he's in that category. Max Homa, right?
Yeah.
So Lucas Glover, Max Homa, that's your betting options in that range. Actually, he's right in line with Spieth's longer odds, I think.
Yep.
Spieth's longer odds at some books. Yeah, that's crazy. That is, imagine that, Spieth. But you play in golf, you play the guy that's playing well, and Glover obviously is playing some very good golf. He's in a good mental state. So we can jump down into this 8K range. Again, a pretty decent range. There's some guys that stand out as definitely coming in with the worst form, but there's some guys that, like Wyndham Clark has had such a great year. Corey Connor seems a little bit overpriced, but the consistency is there, especially on this type of golf course. I imagine this would be, the type of course where he won his USAM at. Driving it in play. He's still longer than people think. I have him 4 yards over the field average, and he hits 10% more fairways than the field as well. So I like Corey Connors a good bit here. Russell Henley still playing good, played good again last week. Tony Finau had a good run here as well. And then I did play some Cameron Young last week. I thought it was starting off to a good start and then just kind of sputtered. I might sprinkle in a little bit of Cameron Young, but there's definitely some X's in this range. What are your thoughts here in the 8K range? Is Corey Connors too overpriced, but is he too overpriced not to play him?
That's what I was kind of wondering. I've kind of been going back and forth on, is Connors a good play this week? I know he's coming off a great event last week. Played well over the weekend. The price tag's up there, but it looks like the ownership's kind of following him too. I think if he gets up there kind of popular, I'd rather play, I'd rather pay it for like Glover or something if he's going to be cheaper.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, you don't want to play him chalky and expensive in this type of field for sure, because anybody's a good pivot just off the ownership. And Corey Connors isn't a winner like Lucas Glover is. Lucas Glover just wins every event. So it's a weird price for him. I'm not sure how he got to that. I guess he's just been so popular at 7,500. They just said, screw it, throw him up there to 9K and let's see what his ownership. Now he's going to be popular. He's going to be 10K. He'll be the most ridiculous priced Corey Connors we've ever seen.
Definitely.
In round 2 showdown.
I'm right there with you. Kind of looking down a little bit. I'm going to continue to be off of Wyndham. I think I played him some last week. Didn't work out. He's kind of just been going backwards since that win at the U.S. Open. 29th, 25th, 33rd, and 66th last week. So I'll probably stay off of him. Although he's a great tournament play. It looks like he's going to be 5 to 8% owned. So if you want to get some leverage on some guys there, he's definitely a good tournament play there. Tom Kim's the guy I'll be looking at this week some. And then Cameron Young was a guy I was going to ask you about it. I think he makes for a solid tournament play this week. Dude can just nuke it off the tee. He's been kind of boomer bust at times this year. The short games really let him down multiple times this year, but he showed some upside there at a couple of times. I mean, he's had a couple of top 10s in his last 4 events, so I think he's definitely interesting. It doesn't look like he's going to be that highly owned, maybe 8 to 10% owned, it looks like. So I think he's definitely a good tournament play. Brian Harman, I think I may go to Brian Harman now. I know he can't hit it that far, but he can really find the fairways at a high clip. I think he can scramble his way to making some pars, find a few birdies there, and he could be a guy that shoots 1 under total for the event, I think, or something like that. He finished 12th here back in 2020. I'll have some Harman back in the pool. I like his price tag at 8,100. Didn't play the best last week, but I think he can do well here. So I'll have some of him. And then Russell Henley, it looks like he could project to be one of the highest owned guys in this field, aside from like Rory or something. He's off back-to-back events, finishing inside the top 6, gaining strokes across the board in both those events too. He had a middling finish here in 2020. I think Henley's fine. He's a guy I want to make sure of how I play him, though. I don't want to play him with some other popular options, I think. So if I play him, I want to play him with like a Morikawa or something that's going to be a lower owned guy, I think. But I think he's definitely playing some elite golf right now and deserves to be a chalk. I think Henley and Connor should almost be switched at prices. I think they should be flip-flopped in prices there. So I think there's definitely some value in the price tag with him there. And then I don't think I'm going to get the Fitzpatrick. I know he played well here, but he's just been playing so bad lately. I'll let others go to him. I won't.
People still play him. Play him. So
definitely.
Yeah, I actually like Cameron Young. Played him last week, and honestly, the way I look at this golf course, this might even be a better fit for him to use his off the tee to his advantage a bit. And I think over the last couple of events, he's actually been trending in the right direction versus where he was earlier in the summer. So like across the board, Cameron Young's been gaining against the field driving distance, driving accuracy, greens and regulation. He's about field average for inside of 18 feet and 12 feet. So he just has a few like fluky holes and it's holding him back. But 8,500 off the tee is obviously his weapon. I do think Cameron Young is a good tournament play. And I would play him in single entry, to be honest. I think at the price and with some of the guys around him that are not super excited to play, that would be a pretty good leverage spot. No Fitz. Henley, like the way I look at Henley, that one's tough. Like the irons are obviously good. He's gaining strokes in all the categories. If I wanted to be negative Nancy on Henley, he is one of the shorter guys in the field. He's not quite as short as Andrew Putnam or Brendan Todd, but he's definitely below the field average in driving distance. So you could argue that if he's going to be chalky off of his finishes of the last couple of events, this wouldn't be the right course fit for him to come back to, even though he played well here. Or I guess he didn't play that well. He finished T25 here in 2020. So that's kind of what I would expect him to finish. It's kind of middle of the pack, right? So I think Henley will actually be a fade, and I do hope he is the highest owned, if not higher owned. But I get it. At 8,200, he's been playing so well. Projections probably love him. That's really it, man. Like I'm trying to look at like some near-term stuff to see if I can just catch some people on a spike. Because again, it's such a strong field. And now we're, as you're in the FedEx Cup playoffs, you can kind of compare field to field to see how guys are comparing.
Do you have an opinion on Sam Burns this week?
I just don't play a lot of Sam Burns, to be honest. Just looking through his numbers that I have, he's above that. I mean, he's gaining in every category for the most part. So he's probably not the worst. Let's see. That's in the last two events. And yeah, like he's not terrible.
He's kind of a little guy off the tee, though, isn't he?
He's not. No, he's above field average.
Oh, is he?
Yeah. Sam Burns is one of the longer guys. He's just crooked. I think Sam Burns is okay. I don't mind that. The guy that I was looking at there was Tom Kim. Was trying to get a feel for Tom Kim. Like his iron's actually been good. He just doesn't hit it as well off the tee as you would want on this golf course. So I might just be out there. But yeah, Cameron Young I actually do like quite a bit. And then I think you might have just halfway talked me into Sam Burns. And like I said, Corey Connors seems like a really good course fit as far as safety, hitting a lot of fairways, a lot of greens, tougher golf course. Doesn't have to make a lot of putts. He is expensive, so you'd have to work your lineup around that pricing. But yeah, I think the guy that I'm going to camp out at is Cameron Young. So we can move down into the 7K range. As we do that, don't forget to hit the like button and the subscribe button. We appreciate you guys tuning in. Again, for the BMW Championship, the second leg of the FedEx Cup. So this is probably one of the smallest 7K ranges we've seen all year. We got 10 guys in this range. To be honest, no one's really popping out for me long term. There's a few guys that pop strokes gained wise, like Siwoo Kim, Benny On a little bit. But a lot of these guys are just kind of average. Like you kind of got to look at other things to see who is popping out or stands out, I should say, in the 7K range. But who are you looking at here? Obviously, some of these guys had a good run last week. Taylor Moore is in this 7K range and had a decent run up until Sunday. Sepp Straka was popular last week. Benny On again. So there's definitely some good guys, playing well. But it might be a little bit tough to figure out which ones are to prioritize for your lineups with, some studs kind of right above them, to be honest.
Yeah, I'm going right back to my guy, Cameron Davis. I've been high on him the last couple weeks. He's still under 8K, which I love. He's been a soldier, actually, also the past 2 weeks. 3 straight finishes inside the top 10. I'll be going right back to Cam Davis. I know he's a guy that can tell you at times, but I think he's an interesting play here again. I think he's still underpriced. I definitely am going back to him. JT Parsons, interesting guy if you want to go there. He's had some really good finishes there. Was only 24th last week. Looks like he's going to gain a little bit of ownership. I think he's going to see right around 15% or so. Maybe.
I think like on a week like this is where it's easier if someone's losing strokes off the tee. But like a guy like Poston, where the last couple of weeks you can kind of argue, we know he gained strokes with the putter, but now his irons have been better. And we know, hitting it close last week is important and just make those putts that he's doing well. This week, I think there's more of a lean towards, that specific stat more so than the actual recent form. So Big T will hate me for that one. But like, I do think there's a way where I look at Poston and his recent results don't mean as much to me, but looking at, he's doing a lot of that stroke, a lot of the tournament finishes, around the green and putting off the tee is absolutely the worst category for him. That's enough for me to probably X him out. So look for those opportunities. I think with ownership is why is his ownership that high? And it's probably off of recent finishes. If you start to look at a little bit narrower statistically, I guess you can maybe paint a picture of why he's a good fade this week when everyone's getting 4 rounds.
Yeah, another guy I really like here in this range is Benny On, who's actually been just elite off the tee recently. He's gained, I think, right around 3 to 4 strokes at least off the tee in his last 4 rounds, his last 4 events. It's been kind of hodgepodge with his finishes there. T37, T2, T23, T3, and it's actually been every other event he's been gaining strokes with the approach, and the other event he loses like 5 strokes approach. So it's been kind of wild. +3, -4, +5, -5. So I think this week is the plus side there. He did finish.
He's blowing it up with the irons, dude. He's been hitting. He lost like 4 strokes on approach on 2 holes last week on Thursday, I think.
Well,
he hit it in the water on 2 holes. I'm pretty sure it was on Thursday. Might have been Friday. But yeah, he's just a couple holes, man, have been biting him bad.
Yeah. I definitely think he's got some. I think he can finish top 12 here again this year. He's kind of surprised me with how far he's hitting it off the tee. Last 36 rounds, he's averaging 308 yards off the tee, which kind of surprised me a little bit.
He is second longest for me in the last 2 events, or last 3 events. I'm sorry. Yeah,
that's awesome.
He's 15 yards over the field. Only Rory is better at 18 yards over the field. Pretty good.
Yeah, for sure. I think a tournament play here, maybe Sepp Straka is a guy that can maybe do something here. Not sure I'll be too much on him. I don't think he'll be that highly owned, though. I don't think it'll take much to get overweight on him. And I do like how Sahith kind of battled through, ended up playing well over the weekend last week, finishes inside the top 15. I think he's a guy at 7K. He's got a ton of upside. He's a guy that can finish top 15, top 20 again in this field. And at 7K, I think that would be just fine for you there. He's got some pretty good upside. I'll go to some Sahith at low ownership. I'm seeing him right around 10 to 12% owned, which isn't much. I like the upside. That won't take much. If I play 15% of him, I think that's well enough. Definitely for the upside, I like him.
Yeah. So the one guy in this range, I think you're spot on. Like Benny On, I do like Benny On, especially on this golf course. I think he finished in the top 10 here in 2020. Again, a good fit. He also won the USAM, and this course just reminds me a lot of USAM setups. Tight, dog-leggy, have to hit a lot of drivers, have to hit them well. Don't have to make a ton of putts, just, don't make big mistakes. And that seems like Benny On's game, where it's hard for him to keep up in a putting contest. This seems like a better fit for him to bomb driver. Like you said, I have him second longest in the field right now. and just kind of hang in there in the top 10 for the rest of the weekend. Just stay around par. 1 under, 2 under would be fantastic. 1 over 2 under could be okay come weekend, depending on how they set it up. So I do like Benny on there. Siwoo Kim just grades out really well for me, so it's hard for me to ignore that. The guy that I'm really interested to play this week, and I'm kind of excited about it because I assume he doesn't grade out well for anybody, which I'm hoping is the case, is Justin Rose. Justin Rose, off of last week, he shot 76 in round 1. I think he was in last place. Then he capped it off with a 67, 61, 68. He played extremely well the next 3 days, and that's the kind of lean that I want as we go into the FedEx Cup playoff series. And I know this is only the second leg, but look for guys that have maybe found something or have turned a corner to continue that into the next event. So Rose is the guy for me. 7,900 is definitely expensive, but I don't think he's going to be that highly owned, if at all, if even like mediocre owned. Like I said, going off the weekend, if I could go back to a guy last week that played well on the weekend, I assume he probably played better than anybody. I didn't calculate how many under par he was on round 2 to round 4, but I imagine he's probably up there. 3 under, 9 under, 2 under, pretty good. So yeah, Rose, I actually really think he fits.
6,500, I think, on that round 3. JBC had him listed as a core play when he shot 61 or something. He was basically free on that cooldown slate, which is kind of wild.
And 1% owned or 2.5% owned or something, which is what you want. So yeah, Rose, I think Rose is a fantastic tournament play. And honestly, again, you get 4 rounds of it. Exactly what happened. I mean, Rose would have probably made the cut, shot 76, 67. I assume that would have made the cut in a regular event, but we still know he gets 4 rounds. So it doesn't really matter what he shoots. And I think his playing, if you play that well last week in those 3 rounds, especially, that's a lot to carry over into a tougher golf course like that. Like, you're doing a lot of things well. So Rose, I think, is going to be a good one. And I don't mind your Cam Davis call at 7,800 again.
Yeah, and Rose finished top 10 at the PGA too at Oak Hill. So I think that's a good corollary.
He does well in tough courses, man. He's got the U.S. Open at Marion. I didn't go back to – I don't even know if he was playing. I assume he might have been in the U.S. Open here in 2004. I think it was 2004, a long time ago. Wouldn't necessarily be good data to use, but it might be interesting to see how he would have done in 2004 at this event. So – or at this golf course for the U.S. Open. 6K range, we got 10 guys here again before we drop into the 5K range. And like we talked about earlier in the show, as far as lineup construction, this is probably the lowest I want to go. I definitely think there's guys that have upside for a top 10, which would be obviously very helpful for the other 5 guys in your lineups. But there's really only a handful of guys that strike me as great plays, and the rest would be sprinkles at best. But I think you definitely got to make decisions in the 6K range. Don't just overlook them or, quickly click guys that fit or maybe had recent form, good recent finishes. And then the 5K range, I think, is kind of dead for me, to be honest. So we'll talk about the 6K range a little bit. I think I have 3 guys that stand out the most for me that I had the most interested in playing for upside. Let's hear your thoughts here, Snyder.
Yeah, I'm going to go with – I actually like Harris English quite a bit this week. He's going to be like 5 to 7% owned. Just looking into his ball striking stats the last couple of weeks, he's been strong with the approach there. Plus 6.6 strokes gained approach last week, plus 5.8 strokes gained the week before. The around the green game has just been killing him the last couple of weeks. He's generally a better around the green player too. Just looking at what he's done the rest of the year, I think he's only lost one time around the green since the Players Championship back in March. But then the last 2 rounds, minus 2.9, minus 3.1. If he can kind of clean up that short game here this week, I think his strong iron play, he can find some fairways too. I think he's an interesting tournament play this week. So I'm going to go to some Harris English. 6,400. It's pretty cheap. I think he'll be under 10% owned. I think a lot of people will go to Eric Cole down here, 6,300. I think he's a good option here. He's fine. He's been good with the flat stick too. Almost gaining a stroke putting over the last 36 rounds. I think Cole's fine. Adam Shank's a guy that can hit the ball quite a ways off the tee. He finds the fairways at a pretty good clip there. He's coming off of a 6th place finish last week. He had a couple of top 10 finishes at the Rocket Mortgage and the John Deere, so he's got a little bit of upside there for 6,500. And then Brandon Todd. I don't know if I'll get there. I know he played well here in 2020, and he had played good at the Wyndham, and then he was second at the John Deere. He's a good guy. He's been finding the fairways at about 75% over the last 36 rounds. So I think Todd's fine if you want to go there at 6,600. I don't think I'll be going back to Mr. Putnam this week. He just doesn't hit the ball far enough off the tee for me this week. I'm seeing 278.
He's terrible. He's terrible. Him and Todd. I mean, Todd at least hits a few more fairways.
Yeah.
Yeah, Todd's actually been decent even into the greens. But again, I think there's actually a bit more of an argument to be made for this event where something like that is more detrimental than some of the previous events he's played well at. Even back in 2020, Todd was actually probably a little bit longer than he was now because he went through a very bad phase of hitting hosel rockets, left the game, and then came back. So, yeah, Brendan Todd has had a rough bout to come back to the PGA Tour. Not as rough as a stint that Lucas Glover has had at home, but pretty close. There's really three.
English?
I'm fine playing English. We talked about him the last couple of weeks. There's a guy that came into was it British Open or the week of the Barbasol, I think, with some really good form.
Yeah.
And I still don't think he's that far off. He actually has, he's above the field in all of his proximities inside of 12 feet, 18 feet, and 24 feet. So I don't hate it. I think the interesting thing about the 6K range and most of the 5K range, outside of Kitayama and Patrick Rogers, all these guys are at least field average or worse in driving distance. So it's interesting to see as the FedEx Cup has progressed to this point, the worst players in the top 7 or in the top 50 here are the shortest hitters on tour, some of the shortest hitters in this top 50 at least. So not many grade out tremendously well for me. The guys that do grade out just statistically for me is Hodges and Svensson. We did talk about Cole a lot last week, so I would be hard-pressed not to play him again here for some flop lag. We haven't used that word yet tonight, so flop lag. I'm going to fade Hadwin, Putnam, McCarthy. Damn, Denny McCarthy has had a fall from grace, right? That's crazy. And Chris Kirk is interesting. I think he's a shorter guy, but his proximities have been so good. I'm tempted to tinker with some Chris Kirk lineups. Played him last week. It didn't work out. So right? What's that?
He played great on Sunday, right? Didn't he shoot like 6 under or something?
Let's see.
I thought he was the guy that made a charge on Sunday.
Yeah, he shot. Actually, he's in the Justin Rose category. He shot 71, 67, 67, 66. So, Again, I think trying to make the argument or at least splitting hairs here with driving distance being a bigger factor for finishing in the top 10, I think some of these guys lose out on that edge. And he's actually been hitting less fairways in the field, even though he hits it shorter. So really for me, it's Hodges. He's been losing a ton of strokes around the green. It's been abysmal, but he still checks a lot of boxes. He hits a lot of fairways. He's about field average in driving distance, so I don't hate it. Svensson's kind of in the same boat as a guy. He's almost like a value brand Corey Connors when he's playing well. Like he does strike the ball really well. He hits a lot of fairways, hits a lot of greens, doesn't make a lot of putts. So I think Svensson is safe. We can kind of carry down into the 5K range. I think I kind of see why Wiley is talking a little bit about Kitayama and Rogers, and I think it's all distance, to be honest. Like obviously the recent form and recent finishes aren't there. I don't see the proximity is really there. The driving accuracy certainly not there. The one thing that stands out to me is distance. Patrick Rogers is up there as one of the longer hitters in this field, and Kitayama is not far behind him. So as a punt, obviously you would want the guys that have that advantage off the tee or could have that advantage off the tee. So that's probably the only two that I would mention talking about in the 5K range. Again, we only have 5 guys down here, but that has been brought up a few times in the RPS Discord. And I can see why it's worth punting. The cheapest guy in the field in a 50-man field, I mean, if he just finishes in the top 30, he probably feels pretty good. But they are the longer guys, longer for the 6K and down range. And I can see why that would be advantageous here.
Yeah, I don't see too much down here. I would play Kitayama over Rogers if I had to. I think Kitayama is going to be right around 3 to 5%. I think Rodgers could be 7 to 11%. So I'll take Kitayama at about half the ownership of Rodgers there. I think, I'm seeing Rodgers at 300 yards distance last 36 rounds. So a lot of people will see that and just go for him for the distance. But I don't think any of these 5K guys are going to be on the optimal, though. So I don't think I'm going to actively pursue any of these guys.
Yeah, like I don't know if his thought process is for like the 4K milli, which is so unique here because there's no cut. So like you're not like you're punting them off so you can build out with 2 studs, and you're basically getting you're just accounting for getting 30 points or something like that. Yeah. And you're trying to jam in the top guys and feel safe about that instead of jamming the mid range, who they could just as easily finish last place as they could finish the top 10 theoretically. So I get the idea behind it. For me, I think I'm just going to try to build more mid-range, at most 1 over 10K. Like I said, there's definitely some interesting tournament plays that are going to be low owned that I think people will overlook. But yeah, it should be a fun event. Obviously, Showdown will be very popular with these last 2 events, and I think that'll do it. Any final thoughts from you, Snyder?
I wonder if they're going to do just straight. I can't remember. Did they do straight captain mode last year?
They did in the playoffs or the Tour Championship. Yeah, I don't think they did it here. I could be wrong, but I think they did do it at the Tour Championship. I actually think it was captain mode for the entire event. But they didn't do it at this event, I don't think.
Yeah, I don't think they did it here either.
Because they even do regular for like the Tournament of Champions, which is like, it used to be 44 guys or whatever. So yeah, I think this should be normal. But yeah, next week will be very unique with the captain points, even for Classic. I think Classic is captain mode.
Oh yeah, that'll be fun then for sure. I think that's pretty much good for me here. I'll have the playbook up and cash chart up on site here later tonight. We'll get to work on that here soon. Use that promo code NFL23. I believe it goes away Thursday is the last day for the 23%. So make sure to get on in and use that. Any and all packages for live, 23% off.
I think it's tomorrow. Tomorrow midnight's the last day. Use it.
Yeah, and then it goes down to 20% and then 15%, I believe. So, we've got some exciting things coming forward, too, with Saber Sim and the rest of the content coming into NFL season.
Absolutely. MLB is in full swing, and obviously NFL is right around the corner. So, what's that? College football. Yeah. And shout out to Bruce, who does the projections for a lot of different sports, shipping the 50K 2 weeks ago. And then I think we had another membership 50K last week on Thursday or Friday as well. So preseason NFL, if that's your thing.
And then Friday or Saturday, I think one of those round 3 showdown, we had a 50K shipper in the showdown street.
We did, which is more relatable to the golf podcast or the golf stream. So, appreciate everybody tuning in. We got a good number of likes here, or a good number of views. So definitely hit the like button if you haven't already. Again, if you guys join these shows, we'll be back here tomorrow night for Thursday night for round 2 showdown. So you can subscribe, hit the notification bell to know when we go live. And when you hop in these things, you guys feel free to comment, ask questions, and we're happy to answer. If not, join, use the promo code NFL23. You can find us, JBC, Big T, Snyder, Locks, everybody in the golf Discord to answer any of your questions up to lock and throughout the weekend. So appreciate everybody tuning in to the stream. Best of luck this week. Let's have fun.